Shadoosh, and a big one today. Wow. This just in. Nexus of Fate is banned in Magic the Gathering Arena. Wow. Can the players rejoice? I think this is something we've all been asking for. We've all wanted. And here is Wizards' explanation for exactly why the card was banned, what caused it to be banned, all that good stuff. Let's just read along here. Nexus of Fate, to ban or not to ban Nexus of Fate. It's been quite the debate, for real. There's a lot of things we look at when deciding whether to ban a card, but ultimately it comes down to answering two basic questions. And those two questions are, is a card too powerful? Well, let me put it this way. You get endless turns. I'll stop right there. When it comes to determining the overall power level of a deck, there are a lot of data points we can take into consideration. We can look at the metagame and see whether it's stagnated due to dominant strategy, or if there is diversity in the deck archetypes people are playing. We can also look at a deck's win rate, which is awesome, and how other decks in the format fare when matched against it. And if either of those scenarios appears to show an issue, we try to identify which cards may be pushing the deck beyond format healthy power levels. I can't tell you how many times I've come across on Reddit, on MTG Arena forums, Facebook groups, just you name it, people complaining about Nexus of Fate. Nexus of Fate doesn't really fit any of the power-based criteria for banning, while it made a bit of a splash leading up to Pro Tour 25th anniversary and the reemergence of Turbo Fog as a standard illegal deck archetype. It only appeared in 6 out of the 165 standard deck lists, none of which made it to the top 4. Look at recent Grand Prix. The last time Nexus of Fate made it to the top 8 was in the hands of this young man in GP Los Angeles back in August with the release of Guild of Ravnica, etc., etc. Nexus of Fate still had a place in a few control decks, but it was by no means dominating the format. Standard has continued to be a diverse play environment, supporting a number of archetypes and counter play between them. Despite all of this, Nexus of Fate continued to be a hot topic of discussion, particularly when it came to MTG Arena. We've talked about it. We've seen our pro players talk about it, and we've seen our community talk about it. I bet they have. Since most of the conversation had very little to do with its overall power level, this brings up to the next question we try to address when we consider banning a card. Is the card disrupting normal play? The answer is yes, the card is disrupting normal play. This is admittedly a rather subjective criterion and is one of the reasons why we've thought long and hard about how we wanted to address Nexus of Fate. This isn't the first time we've taken into consideration the disruption of normal play when it came to determining whether a card warranted a ban. The Eggs deck is probably the most prolific example of this, but we've also seen it play a factor in the more recent bannings of Aetherworks Marvel and Clan Ironworks. We'll call it Clan Ironworks. As anyone who's been looped by Nexus of Fate can attest, the card can easily and significantly disrupt normal play, for sure. When I'm sitting there and I just have to wait for my opponent to take endless turns, and sometimes there is no win con other than the person conceding a match, that's a big problem. That should not be allowed. It's irritating. It's frustrating. I believe it's even driving players away from the game. I just don't agree with it. It's a very, very powerful card, and I think the price of it was up to about $30. Guess what? That price is now teetering down drastically. Hope you didn't just recently purchase some Nexus of Fate at about $30 a pop. That sucker is going to crash. Maybe. Is it just banned on Arena? I'm pretty sure. So the price probably won't go down. Let's read more into this so we understand everything going on. The tricky thing with this situation is what makes Nexus of Fate frustrating. A combination of its design and how technology handles the ability to repeat actions. You typically don't run into the same situations in tabletop because our rules do allow for certain shortcuts. When looping a sequence in Tabletop, if both players mutually understand what's going on, it's okay to fast forward until the loop is broken, either because the game is won or the player looping has reached their desired board state. Worst case scenario, players in competitive play can also call over a judge to keep a stalled game moving. The same cannot be said for digital environments. So I'm pretty positive it's just being banned on Arena. So hold on to your Nexus of Fate cards. Calm down. There's no calling over the game rules engine to explain the situation so you can skip ahead, or to issue a ruling on whether the actions taken could be considered stalling or slow play. At least not yet. Part of the challenge with these kind of loops is that even if we manage to win the digital arms race to force a game concede when game states remain unchanged, they could still be disruptive to what we consider normal play. Using Nexus of Fate as an example, win conditions sometimes take a half hour or more to finish. No one wants to sit there for a half hour. Now, some people do. I've read some crazy stuff. Some people will sit there and allow Nexus of Fate to continuously do it. They're like, oh, I'm not going to let him get the best of me. I'm going to sit here and take it like a man. You take it like a man and waste your time. But, a lot of people consider their time precious. And this is why it's getting the ban. For now, to reduce play disruptions, we've decided to ban Nexus of Fate in MTG Arena in Arena Standard Best of One formats. Play, ranked play, and the constructed event. We're leaving it unbanned in all traditional best of 3 formats. Unbanned and traditional. So that means if you got some paper play, buddy, guess what? It's still alive. It's still good. But it is banned on Arena, which is, I think, the first time anything like this has ever happened of this sort, where a card is digitally banned but still allowed in play elsewhere. This is crazy. So traditional formats, in many ways, this is a continuation of the discussion we began at the end of January because it bears repeating. We'll say it again. It has always been the plan for MTG Arena to provide an authentic digital Magic experience, and we're sticking to that plan. This includes best of 3 formats, sideboarding, and an authentic to tabletop banned and restricted list. As such, Nexus of Fate will still be playable in all other events and formats, including the traditional constructed event and traditional ranked queues. That being said, we will continue to work on ways we can improve how MTG Arena handles cards like Nexus of Fate and other combo-based interactions in general. A large part of this will involve continuing to iterate with our timer system, as well as looking at ways we can improve how the system handles repeatable actions or repeated triggers. Again, we are mindful that much of the frustration surrounding Nexus of Fate comes from unenjoyable games and subpar viewing experiences, absolutely, and not with the overall power level of the card or complexity with rules interactions. Beyond that, we're going to be working with our digital game security and business intelligence teams to better identify those players we believe are purposely abusing these loops. Well, good for them. All right, so I'm not going to go on any more craziness here with this, but the card needed banned. All right, in Arena, it caused for these ridiculous loops, and there are people out there who just get their jollies off on irritating and frustrating other players, And if I was a new player, brand new to this game, even not a new player now, but let's just say I'm a new player, put yourself in this situation. First time you're playing the game, first week you're playing the game, you keep coming across this Nexus of Fate deck, and you just get stuck there looking at your screen for 10, 20 minutes. Every time you see that card, you're just instantly quitting now. You get so frustrated because you know what's about to happen. You don't want to play Magic Arena anymore. That's the reason they're banning it. Because in the end, they don't want to lose profits. They want this game to be appealing. And another thing, not everyone can get their hands on a Nexus of Fate, let alone a playset of them. So in the long run here, it's all about the Benjamins, baby. And that's exactly what's happening where they had to shut down Nexus of Fate for good in Magic the Gathering Arena. This does not come as a surprise whatsoever. There was one other point I wanted to make here. I briefly ran across something, and it stood out to me. Where was this? It includes best of 3 formats, tabletops, constructed event, using Nexus of Fate, win conditions. A half hour is just too long to sit there. I mean, even 10 minutes is really too long to sit there. And yeah, with the judges, you can't throw a judge in the middle of things. It's all computer, It's all computerized. Emptied arena to provide an authentic digital experience. Sticking to the plan. It's all about the money, baby. Where was it? There was one thing I wanted to talk about. The infinite loop. Unenjoyable games. Yeah, frustration. Of course. As we enter the MCD championships, our goal is to enforce the same rules and produce, expected a competitive environment to a greater degree. Well, couldn't find my second argument. That's life, baby. But there are people who are abusing this card, and they're going out of their way. They were going out of their way just to abuse it. And it's not fair to people who enjoy the game and are just learning, basically. There are ways, like Unmoored Ego, there's ways to deal with Nexus of Fate. But, again, for a newer player, there's no way for you to deal with it. You're dead. You're screwed. You don't know any better. And basically, that's the argument. What do you guys think of Nexus of Fate being banned in Arena? Should it have happened? I definitely think so. This has been a topic on the channel for quite some time, and it finally got the ban hammer. Let me know your thoughts. Skadoosh.